Hello and welcome to this little run through of a report I made. So this is something official I made for work that I transformed into wrong numbers and different names just to showcase a few things that I had to do in there, concepts and interesting stuff. We're not going to cover too much of DAX and stuff because it's pretty basic DAX. It's going to be like sums and averages and calculates uh, a few more interesting things, but they would require a whole video by themselves. So let's just go into how the report in itself is made. So the goal is to follow up on a few metrics so you can see them in cards that were decided by managers. They need to be easy to read and fast to grasp, so we used cards. It's not the most efficient for you to load things, but overall it's still very important for everyone to have something easy to read, and the report being a little bit slower because of all the different figures is worth it. Obviously, you can filter informations with different regions. So I went with 3 for this example, and various entities, all of them being in a specific region in relation to a main table. Obviously, that's giving the regions to each entity, a calendar table, and an identification system. So this is very interesting, and let's view the whole model as Mark Cyber, which is my TET-RLS function, and you can see here that nothing works. Okay, that's great. Why is that? It's because it's BRF, my company in here. So the mail wasn't good one, and here you are. So now you're saying hello Mark Cyber, and we're filtered on the south region, etc, etc. So this is replicating what's going to happen if that person with that email is logged in his Power BI account and checking out the report. We're not going to go through how it goes on the online version of this on the Power BI outside of Power BI desktop. This is just enough for us today. But that's very interesting the way you do that, and the way you can give them very specific credentials, and then go even deeper when you're using apps. Obviously, you're gonna have various systems. So I can filter time here, and I can filter entities, and everything's gonna be dynamic. And I enjoy having clear buttons that are gonna help reset everything. And so the delete all filter button is what it's for. For me, this isn't perfect. I would update it every now and then so that at least you don't get too far back, because usually if you're checking out performance report, you might want to by default to see something more like the current year, for example. So this could be something more like base case scenario instead of a reset. But still, you can kind of see how one button might be interesting for that, because you never know all the things you're going to be touching. You can see that here, if I move a few things and select a few different places, you might forget that you did that, and then you're going to be scared of some figures, not realizing that you kept one entity too much in your selection. So yeah, interesting buttons to have. Shortcuts to other pages are also pretty interesting. I'm not a big fan because it feels like users don't really go into them too much, but I like them personally because they are more instinctive. It's using an app on your phone, so why not? And finally, all of those figures are pretty standard, aside from the alerts. And you can see here that we have kind of an orangey alert that's not too bright, just because I quickly changed the colors, so they're not very good. But if I move something up there, and let's reset all my filters and move things a little bit, and you can see that this alert is moving. and some appear, and that's kind of the goal here. Depending on the situation, those cards only appear if you're within a range, so it means that the background of our card is going to paint itself in a specific color if your value is going within boundaries or outside of some boundaries, depending on what you're analyzing. So this is a nice way to not clutter your report and have something that pops up only when you need it to pop up, and not to be showcased all the time when it's not really useful. Then on the second page for our logistics, and let's stop viewing things as mark, you have your 4 cards, mainly that were discussed by different people in the way and what they needed. And those figures are made for you to compare different years, the numbers of transactions, activities, etc. And you can see here that I added a small multiple figure so that you can see at any point. If you are like a regional manager or multiple regions manager, you can see the different regions independently, and technically you could see the different entities too. Depends on what you want to showcase. So it's very nice and it's interesting to use. Obviously those kind of figures would be nice in the focus mode, but well, you don't really need to go that far right now. Since some informations didn't fit in one page, but we didn't want more pages, I suggested that we use this little system here. So using bookmarks, I just had those little pills here that make you switch from a screen to another kinda, so that you can see your average sales and comparisons here, and then you can come back on the overview. So having multiple views in the same page is very practical. It's not the best if you want to print out your report, but overall, if you consider that people might as well like be navigating within the same page, it's a nice thing to do. Having 2 big modes for a page, for example, maybe. So that's an idea that I like and that I wanted to share in this video. Overall, yeah, this report was pretty dense and complex. You can see here that the star schema is not that complicated, but we have a lot of measures to feed all of those metrics, and some of them to handle the row level security. You can see some French in there, obviously, because it's a French company, but overall, like nothing too crazy. The way my authentication table works is simply having all my characters, and let's show that a little better here. So you have all my employees, their email, the region, and their role, so you can have like different ways of interacting with them in your row level security stuff. But overall, like it's pretty fine. What else could we showcase before we're done with this quick video? Your measure table is pretty big, but let's not get into that. Those are the base tables, the keys. So this is the example of all the region names and their impact on like different headquarters and systems. You can get the information on last refresh, which is interesting for a lot of employees, because if they want to be sure of the age of the data you're feeding them, having this is pretty interesting. My choice here was to go through the Power Query call of my main table, and then instead of importing the file itself, I kept the metadata of the file, which include the refresh on the last use of the file. But you can also simply get the last time your Power BI file was refreshed and lots of things like that. So that's also pretty nice to have, and it can make the users understand better what's happening and feel more comfortable with the data they are analyzing. This is just a list of the personal. I realized that you can dig into your Power Query and just have an object that is a list. So this is not a table, it is a list. So you can use it in a measure as a list of something to use as an iterable object for DAX. So pretty interesting. And finally, my product categories, because obviously if we're going to sell different kind of units, all of them go back to one category, and this is what we're doing math with. And all in all, that's what you get, a responsive report that's meant to be very practical, very simple, very easily going into 1, 2, or 3 regions, selecting entities, moving your calendar, and filtering different accounts depending on their email. All of that in one big project that went through a lot of stages, and that's why I wanted to showcase some things for you. You might wonder about this figure. The goal of those kind of figures, is just to instinctively make people understand if there's a problem or not. So here the goal was to say, like, I have 3 different entities, 3 different kind of objects that I'm selling, and I want to be sure that they're within the target for the metrics. And these targets could be anything. For me, it was just the average of a delivery. And since we're using the same truck all the time, deliveries should be within the same range of amounts of our weight, depending on what you're monitoring. And here our target was to have an index of 1.5 for every delivery, and that's the target, because below that we're not efficient enough, so we're losing money because we're not filling the trucks enough. And if we're reaching 2, it means like that it might be dangerous, or there's something that's poorly done, or that the figures themselves are wrong. So that's an alert. And if one of the bars was tend to go to 2, then you need to be worried. Again, the goal is for most of the informations to be easy to grab and to grasp, and so that if you have any issue at any point, you see it by logging into the file, and you don't really care about it if it's okay. So maybe the figure could be less big, but it makes it very easy to read, and it lets the whole thing breathe a little bit more than the numbers around here. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this showcase of a full-on project. Maybe I'm going to talk a bit more about some of the tags, the row level security things. But for now, we're going to stay here, and I'll see you around. Thanks, bye.